In the beginning, okay, that's a little bit too early. A while after the beginning, before good and evil, Asmodeus was a soldier for law, engaged in an eternal war against the abyss, and performing the sorts of dirty work that often comes up in war, especially against howling legions of murderous chaos. His methods having become too extreme, the gods of law wanted to cast him away from the heavens. So they called for a trial with the most primordial of forces in the multiverse, presided over by Primus, the perfect clockwork being of law that ran the engine at the center of Mechanus. The verdict acknowledged Asmodeus' sacrifices for the rest of the multiverse, but it recognized the need to banish him to the Nine Hells. In order to grant him greater power while forcing him to remain true to his word, Primus gave Asmodeus the Ruby Rod. The Ruby Rod is not merely a symbol of office. Its power binds Asmodeus and all devils under his command, meaning that they must honor their word when given. The multiverse unfolds. Asmodeus fights the Blood War for millennia, until finally, one small world that was supposed to be off limits ends up providing him with the tools he needs to win the Blood War. Once he's nuked the Abyss into submission, he becomes powerful enough to quite possibly take over the entire multiverse. He helps Orcus kill the Raven Queen, then kills Orcus and takes the Mantle of Death from him. The Wand of Orcus is so incredibly cool that Asmodeus decides he likes it even better than the Ruby Rod. So he stashes the rod in a small keep in the furthest reaches of the negative material plane and charges Asarak with defending it, then gets on with his war across the planes. The Abyss was now his, and so was Pandemonium. Once he had Limbo in his grasp, he would have command of all the original primordial chaos, giving him the power he needed to rule the multiverse. However, as he stood on the precipice of victory, a stalwart defense of the city of Shrocket Lore by the Githzerai and some terrorists in Winnebago managed to stop him from claiming an easy victory, and he had to take the field in person. This could well be Asmodeus's final error. By taking the field in the primordial chaos, he became vulnerable, and Primus used the moment of weakness to strike with all his power. He managed to chain Asmodeus, neutralizing his power, and drug the Lord of Hell back with him to his chamber in Mechanus. Now, without Asmodeus' grand vision to justify their defense, Primus and the forces of Mechanus are sewing up the tattered remnants of what Asmodeus had already conquered. With the primordial chaos locked in his rigid control, Primus would be able to turn to the rest of the multiverse. Time itself would stop flowing, and all would freeze into a single, perfectly ordered moment that Primus could maintain permanently. There's one hope. A secret network of heroes, sages, terrorists, and dead people has found a ritual that would be able to free Asmodeus. However, it will only work with an item of immense power which contains some essence of both Primus and Asmodeus. Even with that item, there's still the matter of the door to Primus's chamber, which is protected with a magic called the Binding, which goes back to the first moment of a creature's existence and unmakes them so that they never existed. But hey, one problem at a time. Onward to the Ruby Rod.